The salvation of Jesus to Africans by the Europeans can be likened to a conversation happening between a serpent and a tortoise in the bush. And the serpent begins to advise the tortoise. He say, look around the bush. Have you ever seen an animal carrying such a big weightier shell that you are carrying like this? Do you know that this shell constrains you from freedom of movement? And peradventure, if run happens in this forest now, you cannot run with your full speed because this shell constrains your freedom of movement. And the tortoise, who did not know that the snake have a negative intention of devouring his life. The tortoise, who did not know that this shell is where my defense mechanism lies. The tortoise, who did not know that this shell is where I can engineer technology from, and all my life and protection is resident in this shell, pulled off himself away from this shell, and the snake laughed and says, this education is working. And the snake begins to eat and devour the tortoise now without what, stressing himself, because the only protection that the tortoise has been made to disrespect it and pull away from it. The Africans is like that tortoise. The Europeans is like that serpent. And the shell of that Africans is our culture. Because our culture is where our defense mechanism lies. Our culture is where our unity lies. Our culture is where the strength of the people and where they can engineer technology from lies. So the Europeans, when they invaded Africa, discovered confidently that if we don't destroy these people culture, we cannot conquer them. We cannot really manipulate them. We cannot really colonize them. And the best way to make a man, to conquer a man who has something superior over you, is to make the man to hate that his superiority. So they made us, the tortoise, to hate our shell, which is our defense mechanism. And now we become prone and vulnerable to all their attack. That was what Macaulay talked about in his letter. He says, I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one man who is a beggar, one man who is a thief. He said, such a great wealth have I seen in this nation, that I do not think we will ever conquer these people unless we break their very backbone, which is their cultural heritage. So the idea that our culture is our defense mechanism, because if you don't destroy the culture, the people will have something to lean on to fight back, which is one, their mystical powers. So they destroyed our culture so that they can be able to penetrate us. They convinced us, the tortoise, to move away from our shell. And that is why the education system that was brought today, again, can be likened in that same tortoise theory I just gave you now. Yes, they convinced Africans to come away from their shell and embrace their own educational system. And then when the serpents, when they succeeded, they said, wow, this education is working. The reason why me and you today buy our cooking pots, the reason why me and you today buy our clothes, the reason why me and you today buy almost all our food outside the country is because an education system has been introduced in Africa which promotes memory and destroys reasoning. So Africans are reading books because they want to pass exam, but the goal of education is to solve human problem. And so we are captured in the principle of pursuing certificates. There are two categories of education. The first education, that is the secondary level, is what equips a man to know how to read and write. That's literacy level of education. Apart from this, if you enter into the dimension of the university, any other form of education, what it does is that I want to build a car. So all the book I assemble from the day I start that university is what I will be reading until I succeed in building this car. I want to manufacture a phone. All the book I will be reading in this university is what will guide me until I manufacture this phone. So that dimension of education is to create men who are productive, who will solve problems in the society. But now they brought an education system in us that make us gather all our own book to pursue certificates. And what certificates helps to do in a nation is to increase poverty, because it will generate or raise men who are indescribably dependent, helpless consumers. They can only consume. So we have millions of graduates in Africa today who cannot manufacture a simple thing. Why? They have been captured in the crucible of education system that wasted our lifespan. So you can understand this theory I just explained now. You understand that Africans is like an organ. Yes, and Christianity is like an anesthesia, and then Europeans is like a surgical knife. Yes, because when you want to destroy the people, when you want to operate a man, the first thing you do is to introduce anesthesia. What other anesthesia comes to do is to kill pain, make the man to lose his consciousness. Yes, that was Christianity. So they sent that anesthesia of Christianity to us, and it teaches us to be inferior, that we should not defend ourselves, that we should wait and let God fight for us back. So when they want to kill us, they have made us inferior. We can no longer defend ourselves. They have preached forgiveness. They have preached crucible of mind. That is the anesthesia. They use it to make African man to lose the consciousness of life. And then the Europeans now brought their surgical knife to begin to kill us so that we can no longer have the ability or the strength to defend ourselves. Christianity is the anesthesia. The Europeans is the surgical knife. So they devoid us of our own defense mechanism. They're devoid of our own strength and illumination. And today you can meet an African man who stands to cry that Jesus Christ came and died for him. The salvation of Jesus Christ was mentored and breeded on killing men and only killing men. That is why all his 12 disciples, all of them from beginning to end, only one person, all of them died mysterious deaths and miserable deaths. Anytime he comes to a nation, his follower loses his life for no reason. Go and check the track record of all his disciples. Those who follow Christ must first make up their mind to disown their own father and their own mother. That means his second assignment is to create disintegration, whereas our own umbrella of leadership is to create unity and enlightenment in the people. So we have been disrupted from our own culture. But I arose in Africa because a time must come when everything that has beginning must have an end. As long as I am alive, tell Africans that Jesus is in trouble. Yes, Jesus is in trouble, and Jesus is a thief and can never help Africans to progress. Africans can only progress when we return back to our shell like the tortoise. Because only in the shell of the tortoise can the tortoise find his energy level. Can the tortoise find only his shell? Can he find his defense mechanism? Only in the tortoise of the shell can the tortoise think about engineering technology. His safety and all his life is resident in his shell. Outside his shell is death. That shell is our culture. Let's return back to our culture. Our culture is not going back to start killing blood for deities. No, that's not our culture. Our culture is that in the history of Igbo land or in the history of Africans, a young man who is not married is not regarded as a human being. He's an Ikiawulu. But the Western education culture come and brought a man. They called him a reverend father. A young man, fully grown man, and then banned the man from not getting a wife. And everybody is bowing to him and calling him a revered father. Father of who? A father is somebody who gave birth to somebody. And if you ask them, they will say father of all. So we promote mediocre. If you are not married in Africa to provide the kids, the day you die, you'll be buried like an animal. You are regarded as an Ikiawulu. There are meetings you cannot even attend. So the Western culture came and started promoting Ikiawulu in our culture. So we must wave it away. Those are the going back to our roots we are talking about. Going back to our roots is going back to create that which we need to lose in the life. But we don't want to become consumers again. We want to return back to the template of engineering technology. That template is our culture. African youth must rejuvenate as long as I